Hey dudes, Scotty Real here with my buddy Cortez.
I am Cortez the Conqueror at your service.
Check out these grow dots and recharge for epic plant growth. Whoa, the bamboo's growing too fast.
We must escape this green labyrinth.
Lesson learned. Always follow the recommended dosage, folks. Visit www.realgrowers.com/Cortez and use coupon code Cortez
for a conquest of epic plant proportions.
Go to the link in the description to save big and score free shipping on all Real Growers products, or use coupon code Cortez at checkout. Every time you save, you're also helping the channel bring you content like this.
What's going on, everybody? It's Cortez the Conqueror and Canna Alicia.
Hello.
What you smoking on over there, Alicia?
I just finished. I have very little left of my forum stomper. A little bit left. No.
Okay. I got this. I actually got to put this out so we can have a coherent interview. This is the Tiki Madman cut of the Hawaiian Snow Cone. Big shout out to JR Token for hooking me up with these genetics.
Friend of the show.
Hell yeah. Friend in real life. Fuck you mean?
Yeah, I know, exactly. But how's your weekend going? Did you do anything fun?
Well, it's kind of like back to our regularly scheduled programming. Because like usually I get 2 days off for Thanksgiving, 2 days off for Christmas, but it's usually like 4 days with the weekend. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it kind of screwed me over that like the 25th fell on a Wednesday in the middle of the week. But it was like 2 weeks in a row because then I got 1 day off for New Year's. So I kept getting these days off in the middle of the week. So it was like, I don't know, it pretty much just prevented me from getting overtime.
Yeah.
But I went back to work yesterday for a half day, and I was like hanging off of the ceiling, literally 4 stories up in a 4-point harness,
Oh, yeah.
drilling shit into the ceiling. It's always fun. I think I sent you guys the video. Chunk's like, fuck that.
Yeah, he said I'm out.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be able to do it either. I'd get so I couldn't even go all the way up a lighthouse. It scared me.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Just remember, Alicia, history always rewards the bold.
I'm aware. But my biggest fear was like getting up it wasn't as bad, but I knew I'd have to go down and I was already feeling unbalanced. And I'm like,
you already looked down.
Yeah, it's a spiral, obviously, staircase, and it's a steel one, and the steps are like maybe, like a foot big. So I was like, and then to get up into the lighthouse, you had to crawl through a little hole. I couldn't do it. I'm like, I know I get up there and just die.
No.
I have a panic attack and freak out.
This is
Nobody
my
could see.
scene. I'm going to catch up with my crowd. But before we get too far into the show, let's get our channel sponsors out of the way. Well, what do you got going on over there with the Can, Alicia?
Oh, you can save 10% if you go to canacan.com and put in code CANA at checkout. Right now we sold out of the cans, but if you need accessories or anything like that, those things might still be available. But we'll definitely let you know when he re-ups. I'm sorry?
Oh, I said definitely something to keep an eye out for, though. I mean, exactly. I just used the Can system for the first time and had 100% germination rate. So I was definitely impressed with it. And as always, we got the big sponsor of the show, the guys that pay for all the bills around here, Real Growers. And if you guys wanted to save not only 10%, any orders over $50, you can get free shipping. Great. Go to www.realgrowers.com/Cortez or just use coupon code Cortez at checkout.
Might as well save money on what you're already going to use.
And get free shipping you can't lose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can go down my Instagram page and see posts from like 3-4 years ago when I was using them. So it's what I've used for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too, actually.
But before we start yapping too much, let's go ahead and bring our guest in, the guest of the hour. Eppley!
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Cheers. How's it going?
Pretty good.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
We're so glad to have you.
Yeah.
So
you got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's Sundays, especially this time. It's usually a little tough. So getting to make this work is freaking awesome. I'm really glad to be able to join you guys.
Yes. Me too.
It must have been ordained. It'll just kind of work it out, fall into place. You know what I mean?
I love it.
But one thing what kind of popped out was because when we had asked you, you had just started that Puff Puff Pondercast, and I love that idea because it's like a book club,
Thank you so much. Yeah, so I host Puff Puff Pondercast. It is a in the works, kind of trying to figure out how to be an online book club, and I really just started it. I mean, I've had Puff Puff Pondercast kind of like saved in the back of my mind for a while, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And then when I started thinking about how I want to read, I've got these books, and I'm not really holding myself to reading them. I'm just accumulating them. So I was like, let's find a way to get through these. And I really wanted to find a way to kind of incorporate like cannabis in a way to it.
Hell yeah. Make it kind of like cannabis adjacent.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't consume, you don't need to partake in smoking or anything in order to.
Yeah, right. It's kind of something like that's actually kind of cool because like our show is similar in that way because it's like you're never going to find like a 30-minute long optimal VPD talk on here. Like this is a cannabis show, but we're not necessarily. No, I'll kick somebody out of here. They do some shit like that. But no, like this is kind of like more of like cannabis culture. Like it's almost like a talk show. Like it's still in the cannabis realm. It's cannabis adjacent, but it's something a little bit different than what like everybody else is doing, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool though, like the cannabis adjacent side of it, because I mean, at the end of the day, I am more than a stoner. Like, yeah,
Right.
everything that I do start to finish, sure, I consume,
You can't
but
be
it's
basic. You got to be like multi versatile. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. We've got different layers going on, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And
Right. Sometimes
I
you
think
gotta. Well, Alicia always says we gotta peel back the onion.
yes, honestly, because you don't know what you're going to find. There's different pieces that you're going to find with that. And I think that cannabis or being able to consume in, whichever capacity that you want. If you want to go into it, pop a few gummies and have a nice little, medicated buzz going on when you sit down and read a book, like you might be open
What up,
to
Staggery?
more concepts that you might
Right.
not have been. You might have different tangents of thought, that didn't occur before when you were quote unquote sober, So I think that
Get
it
the
really
wheels
opens
of
your head.
creativity going.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it just gives you a different viewpoint, even though it's yourself, it's not necessarily changing the way that you think or process. It does kind of let you step back and take a different viewpoint for a moment.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool way to kind of
It's almost like it
incorporate.
heightens your senses.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it gives you a chance to focus in on each of them, on
Oh
something
yeah.
individually.
That's even kind of like if you go back to some of that like reefer madness kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Of like kind of that part of like cannabis prohibition.
Mhm.
You know how they would always try to demonize like the jazz clubs and like the jazz singers because they'd be like, oh, they're all smoking reefer, they're
Yeah.
all on the grass, you know what I mean? But if you
Yeah.
look back and like listen to some of that music, like it's even still some stuff that's like relevant today, you know what I mean? Stuff that even if you turn on the radio, people are still like using samples, even if it's like, you know, like a
Well,
rap
it
song
turns
or
out
something,
that
they'll
it's
still have
it's
it
not
in
so
the
much
background.
that it's not so much that it was ever the message that they were saying, is anything negative. You go back and you listen, and it turns out the message that they were saying was so honest and real, and from a viewpoint that they did
Mhm.
not want everyone kind of getting on board with. So that's
Right, right.
why, they wanted
That the
to kind of spin
marijuana
it.
was their muse.
Yeah, well, so with marijuana, like that term specifically. So the first book I covered in Puff Puff Pondercast was the Burning Rainbow Farm from
Yeah.
Dean Kuipers, and it is about how this stoner haven, this campground called Rainbow Farm, was trying to just be that, just a campground, letting people go and live their life, consume, freely and openly on private land. But the government was against it because they couldn't control it, having
Right. They
personal
couldn't find a way
autonomy.
to tax it.
Yeah, they couldn't find a way to just take it over, and so they went
Mhm.
after these two men, ended up taking their lives, and they went down with a fight. They burnt down their farm and their campground and their house and everything, and they went down on their farm. What they had tried to raise and grow, because they didn't want the law enforcement to take over, to
Right.
to take it and use it and be able to
Yeah.
sell the property so that they could fund their own personal agendas and things. So,
They
um,
needed some form of autonomy.
yeah, exactly. But they
Mhm.
were just taking away everybody else's in that same capacity.
Oh
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of, and it's, I wanted to start definitely with,
What
I guess
up?
more
What up,
cannabis
Noah?
themed for the book of it. I do plan to go away from just all cannabis content for it. I do want it to be more of an open type of book club. So, I'm
Yeah.
going to cover on some more other nonfiction types. But there is some fiction in there. It's mainly, it's mainly just a way for me, like I said, to hold myself accountable to read the books that have been on my shelf for years. Like I own all of these books and I haven't read them all. So you know what? Damn it, let's go through and read them.
Yeah.
And I
Oh
get to
yeah.
I get to talk about them, which is really cool. I get
That
to
is
have
really
a
cool.
conversation. Even sometimes it does kind of feel weird because I record it, like I pre-record it and put it up. So it does feel weird to be talking to myself and be like, well, I don't know, I really think this way. It's like who am I thinking this to?
Yeah.
You
Just me,
know
myself,
what
and
they say
I.
though, Emily, it's like you can talk to yourself as long as you don't start to answer yourself back. I think
Yeah.
that's where it draws the line.
I feel like you can get some good answers that way though as well.
More of a monologue, not a dialogue.
Yes, you're digging deep. You're digging deep for the answers.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
talk to myself all the time. It's actually a sign of genius.
Yeah, well, I
actually
mean,
do
I'll
too.
take that one. So I have schizophrenia, so I actually have hallucinations and voices that I deal with,
Okay.
auditory. So when you say talk to yourself, I mean, honestly, yeah, I'm talking to a few other people in there that shouldn't be.
Right.
So it is something that, you know, you got to kind of take with a grain of salt. So
No, I mean, you're not alone. Like I'm kind of messed up a little bit myself. Like I'm diagnosed PTSD and anxiety. So just so you know, you're not
understandable.
alone.
No, understandable, man. And that's one of the reasons why I use cannabis. I have
Yeah.
found ways for it to be able to help me be able to get off of big pharma, which I really appreciate, step away from some of those heavier medications that will
Yeah.
give you those negative side effects the longer
Terrible
that you're
side
on them.
effects. Yeah.
Not only
Mhm.
negative side effects, but build dependencies as well. And that extends beyond just opioids. That extends to stuff like gabapentin. That
I used to not
extends
be able to leave
to
my house if I didn't have Xanax on me. I wouldn't
right
even take it.
Benzos are huge.
Yeah, I just needed to have the pill bottle on me because I knew no matter what, I would have something if something bad happened, if I got too freaked out,
What
if
up,
it was
writer?
too scary. But then
Right.
now it's, you know, I can't even remember the last time that I had to function like that. You know, now it's kind of like, oh,
Well,
I need to
and
make
then
sure
the
I've got a
other
joint on
thing
me.
with benzos as well, that's one of the few substances you can actually die from the withdrawal from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like
unfortunately.
that, along with alcohol. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of limited. Like you won't die from like a heroin withdrawal. You won't die from like
I mean,
cocaine or like
you
meth
can die
withdrawal.
from an SSRI withdrawal, from a
Right.
mood stabilizer. You would be able
Mhm.
to withdraw from that. If you suddenly stop SSRIs, then it can cause what is it called? A synapses, some type of a synapse break where you'll
Right.
start to get
To
electric
where the
shocks.
levels start going
No, you
off.
will actually start to feel electrical shocks occurring in your brain
No
because your
shit.
levels have been
Oh,
fucked up. And that's from stopping like an SSRI without weaning off of it. So,
Right, without the taper down. I
mhm.
actually just interviewed a laboratory scientist last week. That's going to drop in a couple weeks. So
Yep.
that's actually, that's how I even know what an SSRI was. Otherwise, I'd probably be like a little bit lost. I just found out about those last week.
But I think that's one of the important things, though, to think of when you think about like cannabis is the fact that you can use it as a medication and not necessarily be afraid that you're going to overdo it. You know,
Yeah.
there's never been a
Right. Or create
documented,
a dependency.
yeah,
No,
there's
fall
never
asleep.
been an overdose or anything that's been related to it. You know, so it's something that's has been so. I'm so thankful for finding it. You know.
Yeah. How did
Most
you
definitely.
discover that it helped you?
So when I started using cannabis, it was only about 5 years ago. Right after the pandemic hit, actually, I was pregnant and I wanted to stop heavy pharmaceuticals because I was on a lot of. Oh, it's hard to talk about. That feels weird.
That's
Like
okay.
my chest just went boom.
Sorry.
But yeah, I was on antipsychotics and anti-anxiety medications. And I had found out I was pregnant and I didn't want to hurt my child.
Right.
Yeah.
So I talked to my psychiatrist at the time, and we actually went before trying cannabis. I had done ECT, which is electroconvulsive therapy, and I had done that prior to when I had found out I was pregnant and had decent results from it. So we decided to try it again since that was a safer alternative to, again,
Yeah.
those chemicals going into the system. And unfortunately, I didn't get as
Or
positive
just
results.
taking any type of like unnecessary risk with a pregnancy, you know what I mean? So around something like that, like obviously take care of yourself and your own mental health, but at the same time, it's like you might want to evaluate the options a little bit more because you're thinking
Exactly.
about like
Yeah.
another living person.
And that was
Yeah.
one of the big things. So when I chose to stop the um, pharmaceuticals that I was on and decided to try the electroconvulsive therapy, it was basically because that was something that would physically affect me, but there was enough monitoring that we could make sure baby would be okay, you know, and there
Yeah.
was no
Right.
increase in substance or chemical in the system really.
Mhm.
Um, that I felt would cause, anything as severe as some of the other medications that I was already on.
Yeah.
So we did try that, and I did another 25 treatments or so of that for that second round, and I didn't get as good of results from it, and so I definitely didn't want to go back on the antipsychotic medications. And I had been hearing more and more about how cannabis was used for like anxiety and PTSD, and
Oh yeah,
those
big
those
time.
are things that I'm diagnosed with. I have CPTSD. I have a generalized anxiety disorder as well as a panic disorder. I struggle with it's called schizoaffective bipolar. So I have schizophrenia as well as a bipolar disorder, which is a mood disorder. And a lot of these things interact with each other. And so medications that will help bipolar actually will hinder schizophrenia and vice versa. So even though, I need medication, to help level things out, there is yet to be one that will actually work on both of those factors. And so a lot of times I will have varying symptoms and side effects, trying to just figure out how to get through the day regardless of these medications that are making me feel like a zombie half of the time as well.
Right.
So I was hearing more about cannabis with like depression and PTSD and things like that. And I was like, you know what, let's just give it a shot. What the hell? I've literally been electrocuting my brain. Why not? They
Why
won't give
not?
me a lobotomy. I asked for a lobotomy. I was at the point where I was like, we've tried other things. Why not just sign me up? And then, I found cannabis and I was like, you know what, let's try that. So I got a medical card and I had never touched it before. Like when I was 16, I think I like tried to hit a
Yeah.
bong once, but
Yeah.
that was it. And
Right.
I really thought of it as a negative drug because my dad would always just come home, grab a bottle of alcohol and sit in the back stairwell and smoke, and it always stunk. And he was just a dick apparently. It wasn't the cannabis, it was just
Right,
him.
right.
And so he kind of made me go away from it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that stuff. But I looked into it and I was like, you know what, why not? Why not? Let's just give it a try. Why
What's
not?
the worst that could
That's so
happen?
What's the
cool.
worst?
Yeah.
I mean, I was drinking and everything. It was not very good inside of me anyway. So what's one more substance, And so I wanted to do it right and I wanted to do it safe. And I guess technically at that time, let me be clear, I wasn't drinking because I was
Yeah. Oh,
pregnant
I
when I had
assume
gotten
you
it.
would. Yeah, but
But
you
I
were
was
talking
meaning
about.
like, everything else I was trying leading up to that point. So I had talked to my psychiatrist. He'd signed me up for a medical card and it was fucking expensive. Okay. I used to live in Illinois and I got a medical card out of
I live in
Naperville.
Illinois.
Yeah, it's fucking expensive to get a medical
Yeah,
card. Okay, ridiculous.
it
But
is.
we got it signed up. Everything was good to go. And I
Which
waited.
one did you do? The 1, 2, or the 3 year?
So I did the 1 year and I got super
The 1
fucking
year.
lucky because that year, because of COVID, they just
Yeah.
automatically renewed them. So I got 2 years for the price of one.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it
Because
was
I
good.
actually got mine fairly recently. Not fairly recently, maybe about like a year. But I've definitely been growing since like before JB Pritzker said it was okay.
Oh, gotcha.
You know what I mean? But I went ahead and did the 3 year just because it was kind of like the best price break over time, even though I was paying it initially.
Yeah.
But like
yeah.
I was saying earlier, I got mine. I actually have mine for PTSD, but it stems from childhood, really, if you break it down. But it's mostly from doing time in IDOC from incarceration.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry, man. Were
Yeah.
you incarcerated for cannabis or?
No,
No, okay.
no,
Gotcha.
but I mean, cannabis has always been something that's kind of been like in the background of my life since I was probably like 9, 10 years old. You know what I mean?
I
But
really wonder
for
if I would
years of
have.
my life, I sold real drugs. So that's kind of
Gotcha.
what
Okay.
did me in.
I understand. Well, hopefully you're on the up and up now, though, man. Hopefully cannabis
Oh,
has
yeah.
you clean. So, but
It's
like,
been about 7 years now, you know what I mean, that I've been released and everything. And I've just kind of been, that's actually kind of where like the Cortez thing came from. Like I've
okay.
been putting this together pretty much ever since.
Hey, if you've got the time to just sit there and think it, though, I'm really glad something good and positive came out of it like this, man. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it makes you
Yeah.
stronger. You can
Yeah.
never feel sorry for yourself. Like you got to take everything that happened to you. Like it's just kind of preparing you
Part of them.
for later in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
can't take it as a loss. You got to look at it like a lesson. It makes
Yeah,
you stronger.
I do. And seeing it that way is kind of something that I've been trying to learn, always feeling like, well, damn, why is that me again? Me again? And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what?
That,
No, it's
that was
not.
life prepare. That was the world preparing me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I think in general, like when I got into cannabis though, it was something that I had to still work at.
Right.
And that took some time because, I mean, to this day I'm still working at it. But
Yeah. It's
so
not
I got
magic.
It's a
my,
daily process. It's a daily
yeah, and
process.
you got to go into that mindset every single time. So I got a medical card and I was like, all right, let me go into a dispensary. They'll know what I need. So went into a dispensary and I was like, I'm afraid to do anything. I can't, I'm just terrified all the time. I feel, and they just kind of heard that and they're like, oh, what you need is a sativa, because it was, a handful of years ago, sativa, indica. That's what we went with.
Right,
And so
right.
they gave me
Before all the polyhybrids.
Yes, exactly. And so they gave me, a real get up and go kind of strain. And so I went home and I, smoked it and I got super fucking panicked. I got super
Ooh.
paranoid, super unsafe feeling,
So
like
that's what I
I
would
was
do.
not like it wasn't very fun. So I put it up in my bathroom cabinet for a couple of weeks, maybe like 2 months or so, and was like, let me try again. And I tried and I was like, okay, that's not so bad. But now I know that it, had deteriorated a little bit over time. It wasn't stored properly. So it could have turned more into like CBN and stuff, a little bit more of a slower sedating type. So I tried it and
Okay.
was like, all right, there's something, let me try it. But it still wasn't as great. It still wasn't a great experience, but it was nowhere near as panicked as I
Yeah.
had gotten that very first time.
Right.
So I put it away and I was like,
Sometimes the first couple cannabis like uses can be like that too. Like I know like the first couple times I smoked it, or even like there's been times I've
Yeah.
gone like years without
And then
smoking
smoke it.
cannabis and I'll go back to it. And especially if I over consume it, like I smoke it, like I was smoking it like the couple years prior, like it was like bad. Like I experienced some of the same stuff you were saying where I was kind of like panicked. Like,
yeah,
so
absolutely.
I
And
think
like,
some of that comes from just having like a totally, well, not even necessarily clean system, but just not having a tolerance to cannabis. Stuff like that can happen the
Yeah.
I
first
think
couple
as
like
well,
initial
though,
uses.
you have to keep in mind, however, is that cannabis can, or it does react on the, I think it's the CB1 and the CB2 receptors. And I think that CB1 receptor is the one that causes psychosis.
Oh,
And so somebody with schizophrenia who experiences psychosis on
right,
a
right,
regular
right.
basis, I wasn't prepared going into that. So the paranoia that I came was a bit
Yeah,
more
yeah.
on a, unfortunately, a chemical reaction, if you will. Um, and it wasn't, miserable or anything. It was just like I didn't have relief is what I was looking for. I really thought I'd get some
Right,
type of
Yeah.
right.
relief from it.
It
And
just
so
kind of like intensified what was already there, maybe a
yeah,
bit.
it gave me a type of paranoia that I wasn't familiar with. And so it felt super scary.
Right, right,
Um,
right.
to this day though, I will say that same feeling that I felt is the exact same that I look for now. When I know I need to get very high, I look to get that paranoid high
Right.
first.
Yeah.
Because I like to call it a tangible anxiety. I know why I'm freaked out. I know it's because I've hit that level and
Yeah.
I know that I'm safe with it. So even if there might
Take
be
like
other
a
anxiety,
gram dab.
no, honest. So you guys, like,
Yeah.
I'm
No, I do that.
what I'm consuming in a day though is literally to the point where it's I'm not trying to get high or anything, if that makes sense, I'm trying to get that point where my system feels leveled out. And so there are days where I have to consume way heavier and
Right.
than certain days where I don't.
Mhm.
So like I did my research. I looked into the different, indica versus sativa at the time. And when I went back into the dispensary, I ended up just giving that to one of my friends. I was like, never mind, that's not the strain for me. And I went back to the dispensary and I didn't give up on it. For some reason, I was just like, no, people said this shit works. I'm going to look into it. Why isn't it working? And so I went in and I was like, look, I want it indica. I want something that's going to slow me down. When I say I can't do anything, it's because I'm so scared. I'm panicked pacing my house because somebody's going to come get me and I don't know how to sit down.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
You need
Yeah.
something with like more of a sedative effect
I
then?
really did. Yeah. And so
Okay.
because I wasn't aware of how it would affect me,
Yeah.
nobody
It's not
really
all the
broke it
same.
down and nobody really knew at that point. Um, of those really different types, or the different terpenes, or what you'll find in them. So when I went back, I did get more of a sedating type, and I had a much better. I actually got a 1-to-1 and a indica heavy leaning strain. And I started with the 1-to-1, and that was like, okay, I'm not really feeling much from this, so I guess that's a good sign. And then I did the actual indica, and I was like, oh, this is actually wonderful. What is this? So
What up,
very
Yeltsin?
easily, I dove straight into that. I was like, fuck yes. I don't know what I found, but I am glad.
It's
And
like this right here's all right.
yeah, I'm not mad at that. So it
Kind
just
of like
turned
you were getting
into,
like a weed hug.
yeah, honestly, it just kind of felt safe, even though it felt
Yeah,
scary because I didn't feel normal,
it
for
was
what
a
I was
little
used to
unfamiliar.
experiencing. It didn't feel scary though. It didn't feel foreign or anything, like it wasn't
Right,
anything where
right.
it was like, oh, I never want to do that again. That first time that I'd smoked, even when I did get paranoid and I did have, a bit of that, like, I don't know if I would call it psychosis necessarily. It just really was a lot of like paranoia. It didn't feel
Yeah,
enough to say, oh, you need to step back. This is not, there was still something there. And I'm
Yeah.
really glad that I kept figuring it out. I'm really glad that I put the effort in to look into what the different strains were and to look into what was being offered and kind of do my own research for it. So I started to, consume, very, very heavily right off the bat, actually. I was smoking so much and I wasn't able to, well, not that I wasn't able to afford it, but I didn't want to necessarily afford it at that level. So I was like, all right, if I'm putting in this amount every month, let me hold off and put it into some growing. And I started growing just a few months after I started consuming. And
Wow.
yeah, I haven't stopped yet. So
You jumped right in. You're
I
like, I
really
like
did.
this.
I really
it's
did.
like
I
this is
once I
awesome. Can I
realized,
have some more?
well, yeah, so once
I
I
want it. I
realized
want to own it.
once I realized that I could do it myself, I didn't need to rely on somebody else. I was like, "Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
that's obviously the way to go." Like I want to do it. I never want to have to rely on another person to help me. And I found something to help me, and realizing that it was something that I could produce was like
Right,
mind
right.
blowing. It was
Yeah.
something I had never thought of before, to be able to
That's kind
produce
of the
my own
cool thing,
medicine.
though. You know what I mean? When you look at stuff that's kind of like more of the holistic approach, because like on my mom's side, I'm half Austrian, right? So like we weren't allowed to go to like the hospital when we were kids. There was actually a checklist. It was like, do you have a bone that's poking through your skin? No.
No.
Are you about to bleed to death? No. You were probably getting smacked because you asked to go to the doctor. But like if it was something that was like kind of bad, I would probably get taken to my grandmother's house before an actual doctor. And no matter what was wrong with me, my grandmother would go in the backyard and get something and do
Yeah.
some type of like more holistic approach, but it was like stuff that we kind of brought to the United States from like our country when we came over.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Oh
see, I
wow, like
never even
herbs.
knew that stuff like that existed until recently. I didn't know
Yeah,
to
you
go
know, and then
outside.
there's a lot of stuff too. Like this is actually the interview that I did recently. There's a lot. Like I'm not the biggest fan of mushrooms because they actually depress me, but there is studies that say that with like microdosing, you can treat stuff like PTSD, anxiety, that type of thing. But like for me, I don't know. I did a lot of mushrooms in like high school, like early 20s. And I would eat these large doses, but I would like get so inside of my own mind. I would
Yeah.
start pondering things to the point to where it was like basically what is my purpose in life, but then the thought would go to like the next level and it was like what is my purpose on the universe, like what is my purpose for being. And then I just felt like I was this like big piece of shit. I wasn't doing anything for my life. And after I came down from the mushroom trip, like it was like 2 weeks of depression like after that, to where it's just kind of like it
Interesting.
probably
Beat
was
yourself up.
the amount that I was like consuming at the same time, you know what I mean? Because it's like eating like 7 or 10 grams of mushrooms. Like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of want to look more into this topic of like the microdosing of the mushroom so that I'm a little bit more well versed on that. Because we're actually really excited to have you on. This is kind of like a subtopic that we've been doing on the show is like cannabis and, more natural things, more holistic things as alternative medicine. So I'm actually really glad you came on today, Emily.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. And like I would love to be able to explore mushrooms more. I've, dabbled in it a few times, but it's something that I haven't found I guess a reliable source for me as medicine yet. I
Right,
haven't given up on it, but I just think right now in life I'm not necessarily in a place that I'm willing to surrender myself,
to
if you
gamble,
will.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I'd have the first time that I did
We're in
mushrooms.
about the same boat.
Yeah. So the first time I did mushrooms, I did a large dose. I did about 4.5 grams. And I didn't know that that was, what you would consider a larger dose or anything. So, I just knew. I was like, okay, well, I know what 3.5 grams of weed is, and I can go through that in a night. So,
It's like
like, this is good.
3.5. That's
Yeah.
an eighth.
Yeah. I was like, this is easy. So I had a fine time. And I got sick. Unfortunately, my stomach didn't handle the mushrooms. So at the end of it, I was puking, and I hate throwing up. So that turned me off for a while. But the actual experience was, it literally felt like a regular day. I didn't have any other hallucinations than my typical visuals that I typically see. And I had great conversation with myself in ways that I hadn't necessarily had before. And I
A
did
little
have a
bit
bit more.
more introspective.
Well, so one of the biggest things is that I at one point felt like I was inside of my head, right, looking in this vast room, and I had seen across this large room, very dark room, and almost maybe water or something, but it was a long way away, and there were doors set up, maybe like 8, 12 doors, something like that. And it felt like there were people standing in front of those doors, or just behind the door, and you could basically see shadows of people, and I knew them. I knew them, but I couldn't exactly see them. And now after processing, it felt like they were the voices in my head, or the hallucinations, or whatever I experienced. And it felt like I was trying to get to them, but I couldn't get into that, that
Yeah.
darkness. And
Right,
I
right.
experience what's called tactile hallucination. So there are times when I feel things that aren't actually there, and so I'll unfortunately sometimes feel bugs, or vines under my skin.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I could feel the bugs, I could feel the ants crawling in my skin, but it didn't scare me this time when I was in the midst of this mushroom trip. And I could feel the ants crawling up my back into my head, and I could see them coming into that room where I was standing. And
Right, right.
they had grabbed these pieces of track, like train tracks, and now I want to call it my train of thought, but it was like these Lincoln
Oh,
log pieces, and they were starting to put them together, because it was just this big pile that got jambled into the middle, and then they were like pulling pieces together and relining them up. But then, like, when I started to step forward to like get a closer look, or to start to approach those tracks they were putting in, the ants scrambled and left everything. And so that's where my mushroom trip ended. That's how it
you
ended.
were mightier than the ants.
Yeah, apparently. But they left, and I never got to cross that barrier, or great divide or anything like that. And it has felt, since then, which 3-4 years ago now, but it has felt kind of like stuff has been jambled up inside and not necessarily put back the right way.
Yeah. Oh
And so
yeah.
I've tried mushrooms a few other times, just in micro dosages. And those ones seem to be actually what give me the most paranoia and panic, and set me
Yeah.
into a type of psychosis, rather than that large dose. That large dose I had such a nice experience with. But when I do a very small dose, it's almost like it's teetering that edge of psychosis, and I get too freaked out. I don't know if it's real or not. And I think that's one of the
This
biggest
is kind
things
of
when it
like
comes
1 foot
to,
in, 1 foot out.
and I can't handle it, because I
Yeah.
don't necessarily know what is real at that point. It feels
Yeah.
like,
You got to
a little
fully
too
break
real.
through the glass ceiling.
Yes, I would need to, yeah, or at least have a bigger experience to not care so much if I'm teetering, because I don't feel like I necessarily went anywhere, because I can still remember the day very clear, walking around my house, going out to the garage. It was a June afternoon, so I don't feel like I like went anywhere, but I do know, when I went to sleep that night, that's kind of the picture that kept recurring, was that moment with the ants. Um, I don't know where I was going with that from there, but I think that in general, mushrooms do kind of scare me, because I did get left feeling that way, feeling a little broken up inside, a little jumbled and not put exactly together. So it's something I'd love to explore, but I think in this current time, like the anxiety that I struggle with, I've found such relief with cannabis that I don't want to push it too much. And
Yeah.
I
Right. It's
struggle.
kind of like one of those things where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of, and right now it's like, you know what, it's precariously balanced in some way, so we're just gonna
Right.
leave the beast
Yeah.
alone, you know?
Yeah. Oh, and I
But
feel you on that one. Like I said, we actually have like the same opinion about it because it's like I got like the chewing gum, zip ties, and duct tape to where I can like function on a daily
yeah,
basis. I don't want to throw them like on the border.
yeah,
It's a
so I
fracture, they'll break.
exactly,
Yeah.
and you don't look at it for too long or it might crumble, okay?
Mm.
But I've found ways to be able to manage because um I have like obviously some pretty significant mental health issues that I'm managing and everything, but I also have a connective body disorder or tissue disorder. So I'm in physical pain unfortunately regularly, and it's not just pain in my back or pain you know, in a shoulder or something. It just kind
Mm.
of cycles because your connective tissue is literally the fascia of your body. It's everywhere, head to toe.
Yeah.
And so being able to find ways to use cannabis to help with every single
Right. Every
ailment.
Exactly.
aspect.
Yes, every aspect, and to not have necessarily a negative side effect from it has been
Have you
life-saving.
ever tried any form of topical for the relief
Yes,
for the pain you were just describing?
Oh,
absolutely. So actually, so on the Let's Be Buds podcast,
little Eva.
Dave, little E-Bud, he
I have
is
some too.
God, I love that man so very much. He
So good too.
helps me with CBD lotion.
Ooh,
He makes it, he infuses it his own from his own CBD that he grows, and then he
nice.
infuses it with a levo machine and he makes lotion. And this stuff is
I make a
incredible.
lotion.
Oh, you
Actually, you
do?
know what we should do? We should bring Chunky on. Hey, Chunk, we're going to bring you on from backstage.
Hey, what's going on?
Chunky actually just got a care package from me. He got to try some of my topicals. But what I
Yes.
do, it's a high CBD, high THC. And then I also, from suggestion from Jared Token, I do the Jit Dat Jiao, or
What
however
is
you pronounce
that?
it. It's something that like kickboxers use, so it's helps with like swollen ligaments and muscles. It's something that JR swears by. And then I actually, from watching Dude Grows and from watching like old Know Your Breeder episodes, they had Locomotive Medical on there. I had to look back when, because this was from like 2-3 years ago, the episode came out. I had to find it to figure out what the other thing was. I do DMSO in mine too, which is actually like a emulsifier, like a carrier. So it helps the medication penetrate deeper
Oh.
into like the muscles, joints, tendons, and everything.
And what is that called?
DMSO.
DMSO.
Yeah, what is you can just like order that? Is it something you would
Yeah,
infuse or you just mix it into the product?
you mix it into the product. You can actually use it by itself, but I use it basically as like a transportation agent for the CBD, for the cannabis and everything.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that. I haven't heard of that before. But I
Yeah.
think that's a really cool thing, like the transport of that carrier oil. And I think that's
Right,
what a lot of
right.
people miss
Because
out
it
on.
makes more out of what's
Mhm.
there. You see what
And
I'm
it just
saying?
helps to spread it. It does help to spread it
To
and to
get it in
help
the
to get it.
bloodstream.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
What
think
did
that
you think of it, Chunk? You just got to try some.
Oh yeah, it was great. I have Charcot in my right foot, and I've had surgery. So instead of my arch going like a normal up and down, it's turned completely sideways. And then all my toes have been dislocated, but they're actually pinned back in now. I've had surgery. I have a pin going from the back of my heel through all my toes to straighten them. So my pain and my swelling is constant in my right foot, and it worked miracles.
My wife had a stroke a couple years ago, so she's actually got like the similar swelling issues, but hers kind of comes from more of like an
Receptor
issue of like
connecting.
nerve pain. Yeah, from the receptors kind of like reconnecting and everything. So that's actually why I got more into the topicals, was to make something for her relief, and everybody that's tried it has loved it.
Yeah, no. Yesterday I did a little bit too much doing chores and such around the house, and it was definitely
get you.
worked well. And then I mixed a little bit of Cortez juice with that with that
The world
All
famous
right, now,
Cortez
I
juice.
I
was
need to know
having a
what this
great
is.
night.
What is this Cortez juice? I was hearing a little bit backstage about it. What is
Oh,
that?
oh.
So it's probably more of like a DGC thing, I guess, but it's one of my own personal items, I guess you would say. But it's an infused cocktail, so it's alcohol along with THC, high THC.
Okay. All right. Interesting. How do
Kind
you
of like
infuse
some
it?
crunk juice. So with that one, the concentrate is the tincture that I make. I do like a green dragon recipe.
Okay. I don't know what that is at all.
Pretty much
So
just
it's basically I'm removing the active ingredients from decarboxylated cannabis,
Okay.
and I'm using 180 proof alcohol to do that. And
Okay.
I'm doing it at 130 degrees for 8 full hours. It's like unleaded. It's definitely full strength. It's actually kind of nice with like the actual tincture when I have it like not necessarily like infused in anything. It works out really nice for sublingual applications.
Okay.
So you can take like
Now,
I got these little amber bottles, and it's got like a little eyedropper that's built
mhm.
into it, and you can put 2 or 3 drops under your tongue. Really effective in pain management because it's suspended in the alcohol that's such a high proof, and then underneath your tongue you have like a lot of blood vessels and nerves and all that kind of stuff.
Now,
So it's something that'll
some
kick in
people
almost instant.
cannot actually process that or get high from sublingual. There's actually
Really?
there's there's a certain amount of people that can't feel it from like edibles. And then even from those people, there's a certain amount of people that will not be able to process it sublingually from their mouth or cheek or anything like that. And I have tried a handful of sublingual tinctures. I've tried THCV, I believe. I've tried a CBG one, and I've not necessarily felt any type of like an effect overall from it. And
Really?
I wonder if sublingually, because I can take an edible and feel it, and I'll feel
What?
the CBG in an edible form different than when I've tried
Right.
CBG tincturally sublingually.
What I'm hearing is I need to send you some of the Cortez juice, ma'am.
I know.
I will very kindly pass because alcohol
We
is
don't.
not my jam.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Oh,
No,
okay.
thank you. Yeah, I got my
Remember,
gallbladder
Dad?
taken out and everything, so it just kind of makes me feel like not worth
That one's a
mentioning
no-no.
really. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
not so much. But yeah, I
The lotion?
appreciate it. Yeah, the
definitely.
lotion, absolutely. But yeah, that's something
I
that
know.
I've
Definitely
had
send you
to
some
figure
type
it out.
of care package out. We'll figure that out on the side after the show. So
I appreciate you. But that's
we
something that
appreciate
actually
you.
is something I had to figure out because of having my gallbladder taken out. I couldn't take like RSO for a while because I couldn't consume or process oil. It
Right.
was painful. I would just be cramping like instead of like while it was digesting, I wouldn't feel any type of a like high from it. And I would just get sick and I would end up like throwing up, unfortunately. But I found lately that taking digestive enzymes has been able to help me process the oil a lot better. And so I have been able to consume RSO again and like
Ooh,
reliably. And
yeah,
it's, oh my gosh, it's such a game changer. I'm so thankful. So
It
I want to
is.
shout out
that's
Spartan
awesome.
because he's in chat. I know he's listening along. But he taught me how to make RSO recently. He's been who I have been getting RSO from, who kind of helped me figure out how to make it work,
Yeah.
because he believed in it. It's medicine that he makes, and so I'm really thankful to have been able to find a way to consume it and get medicinal relief from it again. So hell yeah, shout out Spartan. But making
I
it is super cool, like being able to make it, because like you don't have access, unfortunately, to the equipment that's needed. A lot of people don't have the funds, the
yeah.
space Like, they don't even know how to get it, let alone run the equipment. It's like fucking lab equipment. It's a little intimidating, okay? And it is like it is so scary to like look at
Alicia's got all the lab equipment. I'm just over here with the magical butter machine.
yeah, right. Like I'm like looking at he's telling me like, okay, you want to make sure you turn this one, but don't turn this one because it'll do this. And I'm like, what? I can turn the button
am
on.
I on the set of fucking Breaking Bad or what's going on right now?
It does feel that way, but I won't lie to you. I ran it by myself the other day for a batch, and I did it start to finish, and I felt like a fucking badass. Okay, I will
Felt like a
spin it
G.
up in here. Damn it, it was so like so cool. I was like I just think it's cool to be able to have something that I use and be able to make it. Like,
Right.
it felt great being able to grow my own medicine. You know,
So you got a question from the live chat here, Emily. Stace of Base wants to know, what digestive enzymes do you use or take?
Yeah, absolutely. So the ones I've been using, I literally get them from Meyer. I think they're called Now Foods, is the brand, and they're just called super enzymes.
think I've
I can
seen
send you a
that.
link. Yeah, I can send you a link, Stacy. Oh, look at that. Thank you so much. So these are the ones that I take.
Oh,
Yeah.
with the
corner there.
assist.
I know, right? Isn't it
Hit her
great?
with the alley-oop.
So I've actually been
That's
taking
awesome.
these since I got my gallbladder taken out. Not this past November, but the November before. And finding a way to be able to eat, you know, was really awesome.
Yeah.
And then because like I unfortunately like I didn't before I had my gallbladder taken out, I was throwing up daily, multiple times a day. Anytime I would eat, I was getting sick from the smell of food. And I've been able to address a lot of my stomach issues since you know, like having my gallbladder removed, but I still have, you know, other issues, unfortunately, that in today's day and age with the fucking healthcare system, how are we supposed to have solutions? So I've taken it upon
Right.
myself to find my own solutions. And you know what? Cannabis seems to be one of them that's working. So let's go with it. Let's explore it. Let's push these limits and see, you know, what relief we can get. And so like
And I
this
bet
year,
that it makes it that much more rewarding to you that it is something, like you said earlier, that you're able to produce on your own. So you have full control over all the inputs, you know, everything that was done to it, and it was all came from your hands.
yes, exactly. And I trust it. And I have that medicinal therapeutic feeling from
Right.
being able to make something. I am proud of myself.
From spending the
end of the
time
day.
with the plants. There's definitely
Mhm.
therapy in that as well, like just in the little mechanics of gardening, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And I think if you are able to find ways to use the plant start to finish and completely, I mean that just gives you kind of a full circle moment, and that makes me feel good as a person. I suppose it's something that I look for, you know, like if I'm trying to I'm trying to make sure that like I'm not leaving an unnecessary carbon footprint. I'm not taking more than I'm giving back, and like being able to
Not
know how
flying
to
around like Taylor Swift.
yeah, unfortunately not, you know, I'm not privy to that.
Making all
But
that
I want
carbon.
but I know that I can put in the effort and the time, you know, to make something, and I know that it's working for me, and I
Right.
know that I can share and help other people, and that has felt so rewarding. And it's like
Right,
being
right.
able to come on here and talk about stuff. Part of it, like I was telling, you know, like you guys before, it's like, let me come talk about me. And it's a little weird, you know, it is. But at the same time, I appreciate seeing new names in a chat that I haven't
Right.
been able to talk to before. I appreciate getting able to share openly on subjects that you don't hear a lot about.
Yeah.
I'm in multiple different cannabis shows. I've been guests on other shows, and you don't really get to hear a mom saying, "Hey, I chose cannabis." You don't really
Right.
get to hear somebody say, "I trust myself over my psychiatrist," you know, and have proof of I am
The
listening and
results.
living. Yes, exactly. So I love, you know, being able to it is so scary. It is a little frightening to be
Right.
open. But I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't talk about something that's hurting them, because there's
Right.
got to be a solution. And
That just
that's
kind of
something
makes
that
the pain or like the scar a little bit deeper when you just keep it like compartmentalized and just store
yeah,
it, because then it
And
starts
all
to
the people you can
manifest
help
over
too with
time.
what you've experienced. It's it's something someone else can look up to. Like, look at, there is an option. There are other options out there. And a lot of people didn't. I never, until I had heard your story, I even thought that would be used in such a manner, you know. But it's like, it makes sense. I just never thought of it, and it opens another door for a lot of people too.
Right, right. You know, just to host the forum, just to have it as a topic of conversation, like maybe mental health stuff is something that somebody doesn't suffer from at all. That's okay. But, you know, maybe having a show like this, like it'll reach like one person to open like the doors to it. That's why this really is kind of like the show where you can talk about like anything. I hope you felt comfortable while you were on today, because this is just such like an open forum. You know what I mean?
No, I definitely did. I mean, you guys are very easy to talk to, which is incredible. And everybody throughout chat, thank you so much. I mean, it's been awesome.
We have an amazing community.
You really do. I'm loving it. And I think it's just, I think another thing, you know, being able to come on to a show and being able to state proudly the decisions that I made for my family, my child, my health, my body, my life, and being able to proudly sit here and talk about where I've come from and what I'm doing now is so important, because it documents that we are not just some lazy ass stoner. We are people out here who are using this to medicate and manage our life. And I don't think that gets talked about enough. Yeah, we always talk about how we grow, how we
motivated stoner.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we always talk about how we're growing and what's going on, you know, in the legal side of things, which I think is incredible. I mean, absolutely, we want to keep working on that. But also, let's just make it real of people are using this every day, multiple times a day, start to finish.
Yeah.
Occasionally, you know, there are different ways that you can function. So I'm so thankful for this plant, man. It's been literally life-saving, as for, you know, as many of you guys feel, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Almost definitely.
Yeah.
So did you have any shout outs that you wanted to give, Emily?
Oh my gosh. Yes. So this is the part that I wasn't prepared for. I thought I had everything. So let's just start here. I want to shout out Smart and Grown, because you're the light of my life, dude. I love you so much. I really appreciate all of the help that you've given me, the knowledge and everything. I mean, like I just said, you taught me how to make the medicine that's helped me every day. So thank you very much. I also want to shout out Let's Be Buds over there. Rick and little E-Bud. Like, I really appreciate you guys working with me, the efforts that we're doing with the Last Prisoner project, which Alicia, thank you for wearing the shirt. I appreciate you, girl. Your
big shout out Last Prisoner Project. Chad Westport's a big part of that too. I got a lot of respect for him.
He is. Chad Westport has helped us a handful of times with that. So we are starting to get things rolling with this year's Last Prisoner Project Chatathon, which is going to be in November, I believe on the 15th, but we don't have anything set in stone yet. Just keep your ears open around that time, basically. We've got big works for that. And then I also want to shout out Margaret over at the Bite Me Cannabis Club, where I have become a new collaborator in that space. Right now, we are going to be launching a wait list to sign up for the Cannabis Club. It is its own platform, its own online forum, away from the censorship, unfortunately, that we see through Meta. It is
shout out Mark Zuckerberg.
Yes, honest. Thank you. Got to give him his 2 minutes there. But
I think he just got it on Joe Rogan.
You know what? Have you watched that though? It's kind of interesting.
I like watched listening to him talk. Like the first hour of it, but it's kind of funny because like I just watched this too because I turned that off after like an hour. But I just pulled up last night. I watched from like 6 years ago when they dragged him in front of Congress, and it was like a total different story. Like he wouldn't even give like basic information. He was really guarded. I actually think he perjured himself a couple times.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So if you guys want the contrast, yeah.
I've only seen a little bit, and I'm like, oh, I actually like the way he talks. I like how it's very slow.
It sounds good now. It sounds good.
But yeah, so thank you guys so much, though. I really do appreciate it. I think I've got everyone there. I think I hit everyone. But yeah, if you guys don't mind, go ahead, check out that Cannabis Club. I'm going to be hosting some lives over in that space. So if you want to join, the information will be posted there.
That's awesome. And
Yeah,
then
we
for
can- I can
everybody
post something.
too, I put a clickable link for Emily already in the description to the video. So if you guys click that, it'll take you to her Instagram. So you guys can definitely kind of see more of what she's got going on, or maybe if you want to reach out to her. Well, the stuff she's talking about now, I'm actually going to add to the description link after the show here. She's going to send me over some more of the information. So if you guys are catching this on the replay, all the links will be there for you.
Thank you all. I had fun. I mean, and there's so much more we could talk about. So we'll definitely. I'd love for you to come back again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like being able to just introduce myself kind of in your guys' community space. So thank you so much. If you guys do have any questions, again, though, shoot me a message over on Instagram. I am private, so feel free to follow if you'd like. But yeah, just I'm pretty open. I don't mind helping people out, and you don't really have to feel judged because we've all been
Right.
through some shit.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
judgment zone.
exactly. Exactly.
All right. I think we're going to start to wrap up here, but I really want to thank you for your time.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
I'll see you.
And we definitely got to get a part 2 because we could probably go on for like another hour or two. This could be like a 3-hour long show.
Oh man, I would be here
Not
for
again.
it. I would be here for it, but I won't take up your guys' whole night. So I still gotta handle dinner and things like that. But I'll go out with a dab with everyone. So
Hell
I've
yeah.
got to show
Hell
off
yeah.
this pretty piece here as we say goodbye, though, because my very good friend Nick from Noble Glassworks, he customed me a dry top Puffco Peak. And it's
Ooh,
just,
cool.
oh my God, it's fucking
That's
glorious.
fancy.
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful? So I'm gonna heat this up. I'm gonna hit a dab on the way out of here. So
All right.
My bowl is cached, so I'm actually going to go ahead and pack it up with you.
do it, man. Alicia, you
Get
got
some
something there,
fresh
girl.
weed
You
in
got
have
there.
my-
something.
Alicia,
my-
what are you
my vape.
smoking on?
Dry
I'm
air
okay.
vape.
Oh,
Now, what are you
Stopper.
using? What is that one called?
The name of it? Geez, I don't know. It has a G on it.
Okay. I've never used a dry herb vape before, so
I like it. Like it's my
Alicia's a
favorite way to
fucking
to smoke
G.
it.
that's exactly what it is. Cheers, guys.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Chonky joining on the party, man.
I like it. You didn't even hit it earlier, man. I saw you grab it, and then there was no clouds.
There's no
Go out in a blaze of glory. What all right, guys? Until next week, it's Conversations with Cortez.
I'm nothing to play with. Go and find yourself a toy. But
Can't let me this bitch retarded.